133 pounds was the most controversial and talked about weight class at the 2024 NCAA Championships, and much of that controversy surrounded Oklahoma State's Dayton Fix. Dayton won several close and controversial matches en route to his fourth finals appearance. The crowd had clearly turned on Dayton due to the perception that he always seems to get calls in big moments and that he has a non-offensive or boring style of wrestling. There's definitely a lot of evidence contrary to both of those arguments, but in this particular tournament, it's hard to deny that Dayton seemed to get some calls to go his way, and he did not wrestle the most offensive that we've seen from him. Dayton's opponent and returning NCAA and world champion Vito Arujau of Cornell had a challenging season. He took 2 losses to Lehigh's Ryan Crookham during the year, which sent him all the way back to the number 6 seed in the tournament, while Dayton was the number 1 seed. Arujau was dealing with a severe back injury that, combined with a large weight cut, kept him out of the 2024 Olympic team trials. The match was highly contested and maybe one of the longest NCAA finals matches of all time due to the amount of blood stoppages and excessive challenge calls. Before we get into this match, please go ahead, like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications so you can get more great wrestling content. Alright, let's check the match out. In the first period, we get a shot-reshot exchange, and 23 seconds into the match, they have to stop for blood. This is the first of 7 long stoppages during the match. This blood time took 2 minutes and 40 seconds before they get back to wrestling. Vito basically got a gash on the top of his head from his reshot, and on the restart, the crowd is strongly behind Vito, chanting, "We want Vito!" There's a bit of a feel-out process with some half shots from each guy. You can see Vito is trying to keep space and uses fakes in motion, while Dayton is stalking and wants to slow Vito down and work out of a tie. We stop for blood again, and the gash on top of Vito's head with 1:35 left in the first. This stoppage takes another 2.5 minutes before wrestling resumes. Dayton hits his shoulder shrug throw-by, but Vito is able to walk right out of it. Short time left, and Dayton fires off a high C, and Vito reattacks and catches Dayton's ankle and tries to double off, but Dayton is able to sprawl in a front head, and he actually tries to push Vito away. And Vito reshoots, but is stuffed again, and the first ends 0-0. Dayton gets his choice first, and he decides to go bottom. Dayton comes up to his feet and immediately drops his hands back down to the mat, and the Okie State corner throws a challenge brick for locked hands. It was not initially called. The call is going to be confirmed locked hands against Vito, and this takes another 2.5 minutes to figure out. Personally, I was a little surprised with this call. I thought that Dayton put his hands back down on the mat intentionally to get the locked hands call, and that should be unsportsmanlike conduct against Dayton, but the third-party referees agreed that it was locked hands on Vito, and Dayton got the point. Vito cuts Dayton and goes hard at him trying to make an opening. Vito's pace gets Dayton hit for stalling with about 1:15 left in the second. Vito gets a single and goes out the back door and looks to have Dayton dead to rights, but Vito misses the second leg, and Dayton is able to dive roll and scramble out of bounds, and another challenge brick comes in from the Cornell corner, challenging the no takedown call. It is confirmed no takedown and takes another minute and 10 seconds. They restart with super fast hand fighting pace from both guys. Vito gets in on a single on the edge, Fix works his way out, and Vito pulls him in. Fix turns in to defend and leg steals to get a crackdown on Vito. Fix swings for the head and Vito scoots out. Vito turns in to defend and ends up in a seatbelt. They go out of bounds and no score, but awesome action from both wrestlers. Second period ends 2-0 in favor of Fix. In the third period, Vito goes bottom. Vito is up and out in 4 seconds and attacks immediately. Vito shoots Dayton out, and the Cornell corner wants a stall call. Dayton's eye is busted open, and we have to go to another blood stoppage 7 seconds into the third period. And this stoppage takes about another minute and 15 to clean up. During cleanup, the entire crowd is chanting stalling because Dayton backs straight out of bounds. When we get back to action, Vito gets to a misdirection which looks like a high C, but he actually catches Dayton's far ankle. Dayton defends with a leg steal, but Vito bumps Dayton to his hip and hooks Dayton's near leg. Dayton builds his base, but the ref immediately calls the takedown. Dayton's still holding Vito's leg and looks frustrated with the call. Okie State throws another challenge brick, and Vito bumps Dayton to his far hip again with him flattened out. They stop with 1:03 left in the match, and it takes another 3 minutes before we get back to wrestling. Okie State wins the challenge somehow, and Vito's takedown is wiped. They put 14 seconds back on the board from the time the brick was thrown. It's interesting how an early call from the referee changes this call to a no takedown instead of wiping a few seconds off the riding time, because eventually Vito does get the takedown. He clearly earns control just a few seconds after the referee calls the takedown. But since Okie State challenges the initial call, the whole situation is wiped and Vito loses the entire takedown. However, at this time, Dayton was hit with a stall call, and that ties the match 2-2 with 1:17 left. Fix comes out pushing Vito back, goes left hand high C and gets pancaked. Vito ends up scoring a takedown and goes up 5-2. Fix is out with 50 seconds to go. Vito is shutting it down and defending his lead. He has no stalling calls. Dayton shoots Vito to the edge. Vito circles in on his knees and blasts through Dayton, but never captures both legs. The ref calls the takedown, but the other refs tell him to wave it off. So he does. And Vito is furious and seemingly tells the ref he needs to do an official review. This is the 7th and final long stoppage of the match, and it takes another 2 minutes and 15 seconds to review and confirm no takedown. Vito goes up 5-3 with 15 seconds left to go in the match. Dayton comes at Vito like a mad dog, but Vito gets to the line, circles his butt to the center. Dayton is unable to get past Vito's head and hands, and Vito wins his second title in an absolutely wild match. There's only one takedown in the match, but plenty of action and extreme amount of drama with all the reviews, stalling calls, incredible match and effort from both wrestlers on this one. By my calculations, with all the stoppages, the match took 24 minutes, 36 seconds from the first whistle to the last whistle. This was a great clash of styles, with Vito using a ton of fakes and working from the outside, while Dayton was working from the ties and controlling center during a lot of the hand fighting. Thanks for checking out this video today. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, click the bell for notifications, and I'll see you on the next one.